The Roman legions conquered half of the known world. They fought from Britain to Persia and Africa. However, they could not conquer Germany, a vast territory that lies not so far from Italy, native to the Romans. At least they didn't need to get to Germany by sea for sure. Why did the Germanic tribes never submit to the Romans? Why did Rome fail to gain a foothold behind the Rhine? I tell you in detail. I must say right away, the Romans planned to conquer Germany, and they practically did it. The Roman legions became closely acquainted in battle with the Germans, Teutons and Cimbri, even under Gaius Murray. They reached the borders of Germany itself after the conquest of Gaul by Julius Caesar in the 50s BC, and at the beginning of the 1st century AD, the Romans had already moved beyond the Rhine in a harmonious march. We reached the Elbe. The Roman judges began to judge among the Germans. A new province was about to appear on the empire map, Germania Magna, Greater Germany. But suddenly the leader of the Cherusei tribe Arminius prevented the Carites, who managed to unite other Germans around him. And in the 9th year BC Varus inflicted a terrible defeat on the Roman legionaries in the Teutoburg forest. One of the worst defeats in all of Roman history, by the way. The empire, which even the ocean did not hold back, was stopped on the banks of the river. The ancient Roman historian Flor wrote about the consequences of the defeat of his compatriots in the Teutoburg forest. In Germany, the formidable Arminius is still honored as their national hero. At the approximate site of the battle in the Teutoburg forest, an impressive monument with a raised sword was erected to him in the 19th century, by the way, facing France. And the Germans were also very lucky. Just at the beginning of our era, the largest Illyrian uprising broke out, covering almost the entire Balkan peninsula. The Romans urgently had to send huge forces to the war with the Illyrians, which could obviously be useful to them in the conquest of Germany. In the future, the Romans did not try to conquer Germany, for the Germans turned out to be extremely tough warriors. They united in powerful squads around their leaders, so the legendary Roman principle of divide and rule did not work in relation to the Germanic tribes, while Germany itself, deserted and covered with dense forests, did not seem to the Romans such a desirable prey to spend huge military resources on. Autobahns and cozy towns with half-timbered roofs were still 2,000 years away. In fairness, I will say that the Romans avenged their defeat in the Teutoburg forest. Arminius was killed by his own Germans, perhaps on a tip from Roman agents of influence. Well, the Roman commander Germanicus Julius Caesar Claudian in the 15th year AD made a punitive campaign in Germany, devastating the lands there and returning the lost eagles of the Varus legions. However, the Romans in the campaign of Germanicus suffered considerable losses, including from the terrible climate, and they preferred not to climb more to the north of Europe. The Quirites fortified themselves along the Rhine, building a whole network of fortifications here, the so-called Limes Germanicus, German border. Moreover, even without the Germans, the Romans had enough where to fight on the borders of their vast empire. The Roman Empire itself, in contrast to the Roman Republic, was no longer conducive to huge conquests, for the commander who would have conquered Germany could have received such glory that it would have eclipsed the imperial one, with all the ensuing ones in the form of a change of power. The Romans in Germany did not see any valuable resources for themselves, except perhaps amber and animal skins, which were easier to buy than to beat off in a war. The Germans were not valued as slaves either. They showed too rebellious disposition, even in captivity. It was a nice thing to stab the owner on a dark night and run away for the shaggy northerners. However, some territories of modern Germany were included in the Roman Empire. These lands are along the Rhine, as well as the southern parts of Bavaria and Baden. The same German city of Cologne, distorted, colony, traces its history from the center of the Roman province Germania Inferior, Lower Germany, and it was originally called Colonia Claudia Era Agrippinensium, Claudia's colony and the altar of the Agrippines. By the 2nd century AD, Roman offensive power had completely dried up, and the Germans themselves began to go on the offensive. In the 5th century they will take Rome and become the gravediggers of the Western Roman Empire. But everything could have gone according to a completely different scenario, if Rome had managed to capture Germany in the 1st century AD. For example, the Romans obviously would have met our ancestors much earlier, the Slavs who lived behind the Germans. Most likely, it would be the Slavs who would have the honor of stopping the Roman onslaught in northern Europe, and then take Rome and conquer Italy. In short, Europe today would definitely look very different. Thank you for attention.